Welcome to another episode of Two Old Geeks Talking. Now on the World Wide Web.
Hey, welcome back to Two Old Geeks. I'm Rob.
And I'm Trace.
And today we'll be discussing Darth Revan.
Darth Revan. Now, when you told me you want to talk about Darth Revan, I was totally taken by surprise.
Good.
And because when I think of Star Wars characters, I think of like people that don't even know Star Wars. First of all, everybody knows Star Wars. So like even people that aren't into science fiction and stuff like that, sci-fi, they know Star Wars and they know Luke Skywalker
Right.
and Princess Leia and Han Solo. So I would say those would be your A-type characters.
Okay, right.
So your B-type characters would be maybe Boba Fett and Darth Maul. Maybe everybody that is not into Star Wars hasn't heard of those characters.
Right.
And then your C characters would be like Bib Fortuna and maybe Salacious Crumb and characters like that. But like Darth Revan is really like a D character. I mean, he's like a character where you've got to be hardcore Star Wars
Okay.
to even heard of Darth Revan. So tell me, brother, why are you a fan of Darth Revan, and when did you become a fan of Darth Revan?
I became a fan of Darth Revan probably, I'd say maybe 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew of him,
yeah.
but I really didn't do a deep dive or really start looking into him until about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, he's not a mainstream character.
No, most people haven't heard of him. Now, I have heard of him before you.
Oh, well. I didn't say I didn't hear of him, but 4 or 5 years
and
ago.
so,
I didn't
from
really
the
get
video
into it.
game, Knights of the Old Republic.
Right. Okay.
So do you want to talk about that before I tell
go ahead.
you
No,
my
go
personal experience? So, my first gaming console, of course, when we were kids, were in television. But then whenever I got on my own, moved out, got married, I finally broke down and bought the original Xbox.
Right.
The Xbox had been out for a while. And primarily the reason I bought the original Xbox was for a game that LucasArts put out, which was called Knights of the Old Republic.
Right.
And the game was so well written. Now, if you go back and look at the graphics now, I mean, they're ridiculous compared to what you see now.
But that was like 2003
or something like that. So yeah, 2003, something like that. So the thing is that, but the game was so well written, and it had this big, huge reveal in it. So in the game, you create your own character. You got. It was very limited character creation. You could be male or female.
Right.
You could change your hairstyle. You had a few different faces you could choose from. But you create your character, and you're working through the game, and all the way through the game, as your character goes to sleep, it's having these visions of this other character called Darth Revan.
Right.
So it's like the ultimate bad guy in the game. And so you're thinking, at some point in this game, I'm going to have to face Darth Revan. You keep having these visions. Well, about midpoint or maybe a little bit past midpoint in the game, you start having a vision. Your character goes to sleep, to rest, to heal, and and the character reaches up and takes the mask off, and it's whatever character you created is behind the mask.
Right.
So you are Darth Revan. So I was totally blown away with that, not expecting it. And it was this kind of moment like whenever you hear Darth Vader say, "I am your father," and as a kid you're like, "Oh." So whenever I was watching that, and all of a sudden, I got my little controller in my hand, and all of a sudden the vision comes on, and he takes the mask off. I'm just like, oh, and I was so happy with that because it was so well written.
Right.
That I had my daughter Eve play it, and
just so she could get to that
so she get to that point. So she's like sitting on the edge of the bed. I had the TV in the bedroom, had the Xbox hooked to it, and she's sitting there playing. She's real little. And she's getting to that point, and I'm just like looking at her. She's playing. I'm looking at her.
Thinking, what?
She's probably thinking, what the heck's wrong with Daddy? So then it gets to that point, and she's just like, oh. And it was great. It was like a moment we were able to share. So I'll shut up. Go ahead.
No. That's the perfect way to start because that was really the beginnings of Darth Revan. Was the video games, the Knights of the Old Republic. So the writer of the game, his name was Drew Carpetian.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Carpetian.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
He's not from Kentucky.
no, but he's our age. He's 53 now at this moment.
Oh yeah, he's an old man like us.
He's an old man like us.
Yeah.
But before he ended up writing for this game, he had wrote several other books, Mass Effect,
Yeah.
Scourged Earth.
Yeah.
So he was
He's a good writer.
Right. He was used to writing sci-fi because they wouldn't have just let anybody take over this. They wanted somebody that was seasoned in a sci-fi background.
Yeah.
And he had some chops. He'd had some good books. So that's how he ended up pertaining the opportunity to write for the Old Republic. One of his favorite characters he wrote, he's wrote 6 books, is Darth Bane. Are you familiar with Darth Bane?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we won't get into that unless the fans want us to go into a deep dive about Bane, but that was Drew's favorite character was Darth Bane. But my favorite character that he did was Revan.
Yeah.
So Revan, like you said, he's not what you would say an A, B, C. He's more of a D character.
Yeah.
And that's because
But he's still super popular.
well, he is. Oh, Lord. So 3 months ago, GameStop came out with a Darth Revan mask.
Yes.
Yeah, this ain't it.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was like $80.
Yeah.
I missed out a bit. I didn't know that it was even out.
Yeah.
And
So it's sold out by the time you.
oh yeah, and now here it is 3 months later, and the only way you can get them is like eBay and stuff like that
secondary market.
for like double or twice the
seriously?
price. It is
Yeah.
crazy, and it's because it was a GameStop
exclusive?
Exclusive, and I'm like, is there really that big of a fan base for Darth Revan?
I think it is because you remember how Wolverine was real popular when we were young because he was a man of mystery.
Right.
And Wolverine really lost his popularity when they went back and fleshed out his origins. Well, Darth Revan was a man of mystery. In fact, you didn't know whether Darth Revan was male, whether it was female.
Right.
Anything about his origins because his origins come from that video game. In that video game, you got to choose. Even after you found out you were Darth Revan in the game, you could decide to move forward in the game as a hero, or you could decide to move forward in the game as a villain.
Right.
So even his alignment was ambiguous.
Right.
It was hard to tell.
So Drew, in his writings, kind of nailed all that stuff down.
Yeah.
So he went back and wrote more of an in-depth history, I guess you would say, of the character. So as all Jedis he starts out as a Jedi. And so his very first master was Kreia. And she was kind of an oddball in herself because in her mind, she wanted to start a new Jedi Order.
Yeah, and this is long before Luke Skywalker and all that.
Oh, yeah. We're talking like
1,000 years or something like that.
Hold on a second. I can tell you exactly when. It was 3960 BBY.
Yeah.
Which is before the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
Right. And for you deep geeks, you know what that means. But,
Right.
But anyway, she wanted to actually start a new Jedi Order. Because in her mind, she thought that her Padawan should know both the dark and light side. In order to know the true Force and all of that the Force had to give, you had to learn them both.
And they have a term that fans have created that never has become canon in Star Wars, and it's Gray Jedi.
Right.
And it's somebody who doesn't choose the light side or doesn't choose the dark side. They try to go in between.
Yeah.
George Lucas always said, and he still says...
Don't they make Ahsoka that way, don't they?
Yeah, well, George Lucas always says there's just light and dark. There's nothing in between.
Right.
And so, but George Lucas don't own Star Wars anymore. So, but everybody's clamoring for a gray Jedi somewhere in between.
Right.
And really, Revan was kind of close to that.
Well, in my mind, now, you know how they always said, Anakin filled the prophecy of the chosen one that would bring balance to the Force.
Yeah.
In my mind, that had already happened in Revan.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because, once his Jedi Master was exiled by the Council for her teachings and thoughts, he actually had multiple teachers or other multiple masters, not like just one. And he excelled in everything that they threw at him. And he was becoming so powerful so fast that it literally put fear in the council itself. And where there's fear, there's anger. Where there's anger, there's hate. And where there's hate, it leads to the dark side. So these Jedi Council was not used to feeling this way towards one of their own. But he literally, before he even turned into a villain, was putting fear in them.
Now in the game, I know they had to nail the character down after the game, but in the game, he was a Jedi. Revan was a Jedi, and they even released a toy. Hasbro did with Revan wearing white robes as a Jedi, and so in the game, he turns bad. And so the Jedi capture him, wipe his memory, and in the game,
we'll get into that.
Okay,
we'll
get into that. Okay, all right. Okay,
you're
all right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Before we get to that point.
Okay, let's talk about something.
Okay, else. Let's talk what leads up to that
Drink
point.
my meat and listen.
You do that. Okay, so in the past, the Mandalores decided they wanted to start growing their territories. They started seizing more of the Outer Rim territories, and they were growing. They had a purpose, and they were led by a Mandalore the Ultimate.
Yes.
And you know him if you've seen him because he has this big gold helmet, and it's kind of like all weird looking, but it was like a symbol that brought all the Mandalorian clans together. So Revan went to the council and said, hey, we need to step in. We need to do something. And the council's like, nah, it's none of our concern. We're not fooling with that. So Revan got together a group of other young Jedis. And we're only talking about maybe 7 guys.
Yeah.
But at the time, there was only 100 Jedi. We're talking Padawans, Masters, and the 12 on the council. All at the time, there was only 100. So when a chunk of them leaves, it's noticed. So they weren't happy with him. So this group, I think they called themselves the Crusaders. They went down to Malachor 5, and the atrocities that were, when they landed, the atrocities and the terror that they faced, they all got this forced vision, every damn one of them, of how terrible the Mandalorians had treated these people.
Yeah.
And so Revan, he walks up to this body of water. I don't know if it's a lake, an ocean, or whatever. And he finds this helmet. It's a Mandalorian helmet, scarred up and beat up. And he picks it up. And when he picks it up, he gets a forced vision of the female Mandalorian that wore it. Now, she had come in between, she stepped in between the people of Cathar, that was the planet, and said, look, these people are harmless. They're not hurting nobody. You want to take over the place, that's fine. Take over it, send them off. We don't need to massacre these people.
Yeah.
And her clan basically said, if you're not with us, then you're one of them, and massacred her too. So he made a promise. When he put on the helmet, he basically made a promise.
That's where he wears the mask.
He made a promise when he put it on. Let's see if I can find I wrote little notes here. He put it on and said, I will not remove this mask until there is justice. He will take up her cause.
Yeah.
And basically, in his mind, he was going to take out every freaking Mandalorian that there was. So, with him being that powerful, he let's see. So him being that powerful, he went back, and he did so well fighting this army that he was made supreme commander of the galactic army. And the Jedi court was basically had to sanction his actions.
Yeah.
Because although they didn't want him to do it, he done such a great job at it. They were like, "Oh yeah. Well, we're okay with
George Lucas didn't write any of this. So who wrote this?
Drew.
Drew wrote it.
Drew's writing all this
Right.
stuff.
So did he write it in a book, or did he write it in a? I know he's hardly been in any comics. I know Darth Revan's hardly been in any comics.
He wrote these books. Actually, we have 2 of these books because this was my original one. You can see how worn out and tore up it is.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it, so I went and got another one.
Yeah.
So later on, at the end of the video, I'll explain to you how you can earn this book, and I'll mail it to you. But anyway, so he went on to write, and then there was a Marvel comic series called The Old Republic as well.
Yeah, there was a Marvel comic series called Star Wars Legacy, and it followed the grandson of Luke Skywalker. And that is actually Darth Revan's first comic book appearance is in one of those issues. And it draws quite a bit. I mean, it's worth quite a bit of money because there's so many Darth Revan fans out there. So this book came out in 2012.
Okay.
So the game came out in 2001. So really, the Darth Revan character wasn't fleshed out until this book,
right,
which was 11 years later. Or was it 2003?
I think it was 2003.
Yeah, so about 9 years
I think that's why I said 2003 last time,
Yeah.
because that's when.
Okay, all right.
So anyway, Revan, being trained the way he was trained, he started, during these wars, he started using tactics that wasn't what he was trained to do. He was going outside his training. And every time he was slipping closer and closer and closer and further into the dark side. So eventually, after the Mandalorians were defeated, he had caught up with, I had to write this in my note. Now, I've been calling him Mandalore the Ultimate, but he actually had a name. His name was Tianla Mandalore.
Yeah, Gesundheit.
Right, which means the Mandalore the Ultimate, but his followers also called him the Great Shadow Father, because he was the one that actually brought the clans together. So when he defeated him, the Mandalore the Ultimate had told him, look, I did not do this on my own. I did this for my people. I did this for these clans. But a Sith came to me, a dark Sith came to me and told me that if I'd done what he asked, that it would strengthen my people. And it had. The Mandalores were spread across the universe, across the galaxy. And he said, this is the one that got this started. And so, of course, Revan kept the mask as a trophy, broke up the clans, broke up the armies, started still taking them out. But in the meantime, him and what you would call like his fellow brother in arms, Malik. He was a Jedi as well.
Yeah, he was the guy. Was he the guy that had the bottom? Yeah.
Eventually, yeah. But
yeah.
not at this point. At this point,
he was in the video game.
Right. At this point, they're 2 young guys going to war together.
Okay.
And like brothers in arms.
Gotcha.
And so Revan and Malik went looking for this Sith Lord, and eventually they caught up with him, and his name was Darth Vitious. I'm trying to make sure I pronounce that right. Vitious.
Yeah.
So, crazy thing is Vitious was like the most powerful Sith Lord there was.
Yeah.
And he ended up controlling their minds and turning both of them into the dark side. So that's when they became Darth Revan and Darth Malik.
Yeah, before then they were just Revan and Malik.
It was just Revan and Malik, right. So Vitious he basically knew they were coming. They entered their throne room. He overtook them, transformed them, and together they created this thing called Starforge. You might remember that from the video game.
Yeah.
Now, did you play both games?
Yes. Yeah. The
Okay.
first one was really, really good, and the second one was okay, but it was a lesser quality than the first one.
Okay.
I don't know if they were both written by the same people or not, but really enjoyed the first one. The second one was meh. All right.
Okay.
And I think that's the reason there wasn't a third one.
Because the second one was
The second one wasn't very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Starforge created warships, created assassin droids, created anything that they needed to go into war. And it was basically so they could go against the Galactic Republic and fight up against the Jedis. Let's see.
So in the book, in the game, you got to a point where you could be good or you could be bad.
Right.
And so the game actually had set up to where if you chose the bad path, it started to alter your appearance. And but so in the Darth Revan story that was written by that author, did he, after turning to the darkness, did he ever turn back to the light?
Yes, eventually. Well, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah. So he goes from being a Jedi to being a Sith to being a Jedi again.
Okay.
Let's see. So, as a Sith and had been a Jedi, he knew all their tactics because he was a smart cookie as a Jedi. So he was beating the Jedis and the Republic battle after battle after battle and handling them with their ass time and time again. So some of his tactics, he literally would send an assassination group to go after government officials, and not only would they take them out, but they would also take their places in that government. He also sent a group of assassins out to capture Jedis, and your options was you either turn Sith or die.
Yeah. Now at the time, I see that he carries a purple lightsaber and a red lightsaber.
Right. It's
So
kind of
is the purple from when he was a Jedi and the red from when he was a Sith?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's a good explanation.
Yeah.
Yes. I just guessed
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
I just guessed that. Okay.
Red's always Sith.
Yes. Yeah. And purple's typically just means Samuel L. Jackson. But
No. Revan had purple before Samuel L. Jackson.
Did he though? Was that character? Did that character carry a purple lightsaber before
You played the game.
prequels were made? The prequels were made. I mean, the game was made in 2003. I can't remember when the prequels come out.
I think in most of the old pictures,
Yeah.
his lightsaber was neither purple or red. I think it was green most of the time.
Oh yeah.
When he was a Jedi,
Yeah.
I'm thinking. But I mean, outside the games, most of what we know about Revan is in written form. At least most of what I know. There was comic book series.
And he wasn't into too many comics because I'm familiar with a lot of comics. So he did like dual wield. He used both lightsabers at the same time.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
So Revan and Malak, they became stronger and stronger Sith. Malak, Sith being Sith, they're power hungry. One always wants to better out the other one.
Yeah.
And of course, although he was Revan's, I wouldn't say Padawan. What do you call them when they're Siths? Apprentice.
Yeah.
He was basically Revan's apprentice. Decided that he wanted to stop Revan or become Revan's master or boss or whatever, take him out. So he decided to face him in a duel. Now,
And that's when he lost his jaw.
right. Not only did he lose the duel, but he lost his jaw.
And that was a cool part of the video game too, the original Knights of the Republic, which they are remaking.
That's cool.
They're remaking the game and like with updated graphics, but using the same plot, same voices and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw Vader's kind of hideously deformed, odd old man face when he took that mask off. So you always saw Malik with that big jaw piece on. So when he took it off in the game, and he didn't have no lower jaw at all, you know, he just had like a little voice box attached. You know, that was another big reveal that was in that game. Yeah, you're like, oh man, that's cool. That's cool, man.
How do you swallow?
Yes, that's got to be tough. You just like grab the food up in your hand. And stick it
I'm
down.
guessing he had a G tube.
Yeah, I'm thinking
just
so.
like a gastric tube right about there.
There you go.
All right, so that wasn't enough to stop Malik. Malik still wanted on top.
Yeah, I would quit if you cut my jaw off.
Right? You would think
it's like you win.
Yeah.
Obnoxious, I'd be like,
you got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you win.
You got it. Got it. Okay. So anyway, so he waited until Revan was on his flagship.
Yeah.
And Malik decided to fire upon it.
Yeah.
So the ship was heavily damaged, and Malik, pretty sure that he had taken out Revan, basically called himself the Sith Lord from that moment on.
Yeah.
What he didn't know is that Revan had been knocked unconscious and was saved by a Jedi called, let me make sure I pronounce it. Bastila Shan.
Yeah, she was in the video game.
Right.
And I really liked that character.
Right.
They made an action figure of her, and I think she appeared in some comics. But yeah, she was a well-written character. I really liked her. She carried a lightsaber that had two blades on it way before Darth Maul did.
Okay, well, explain to me, because I need to look into this. So, not only did she save him, she imprisoned him, like captured him, and forced bond with him. I don't know what that is, but it sounds...
Yeah, it's been a long time since I played the game, and but somehow she linked herself to him, and I think that's how she wiped his memory.
Well, it was actually the whole Council of 12 had to put their powers together to rid his memory. And the reason they did that is because...
They used him as a weapon.
They knew, knew they weren't powerful enough to stop the Sith. So they literally turned him into a weapon. They sent him down to, I think it was Tatooine, to an enclave, and was retraining him and honing his skills, and right back at you. You know, you took him, you used him against us, and now they're going to do the exact same thing to him, and he was none the wiser. That's kind of mean.
Yeah, a little bit.
For people that's supposed to be good people.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah.
You would have thought they would have been like, you know, buddy, you've been through enough.
You would think so.
Go sit on the front porch.
But that would have been a boring story.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so he goes back out, and he ends up destroying the Star Forge that he actually helped create. And at the same time, he ended up defeating the guy that once was his brother, once was his ally, now his enemy. He ends up defeating Malik. And Malik, let me see. So one of Malik's last words was said to him as before he died was, "Savior, conqueror, hero, villain. You were all these things, Revan, and yet you are nothing in the end, and you will forever stand alone." And then he died. So it's crazy because that whole phrase comes to play later on. So anyway, but he wasn't wrong. Malik wasn't wrong, because although Revan had reformed or been turned back into a Jedi, he never really was seen back in the Jedi Temple again. He felt like an outsider. Now, although the Padawans and the young Jedi Knights saw him as a hero and saw him as a legend, the older Jedi Masters, they recalled all of the Jedi that had died in the wars. They recalled all of the horrors that Revan did when he was a Sith.
Yeah.
So they couldn't get past that. So he kind of stayed away. He just stayed an outsider. He was, like you said, in that gray area.
Yeah.
So, years had passed, and he ends up marrying, what'd you say,
Bastila
Shan. They ended up getting married, which is cool. You think, okay, this guy's finally going to get a happy ending. But because of his force visions, he would get of his dark side. And it was like a big chunk of his life that was missing, and he wanted to know the answers because he was trained to know both sides.
He had PTSD.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And he thought if he went out and found out as much as he could about his past, it would help him with it. So, where did it lead him back to? Lord Vitiate, which in turn kicked his ass. He kicked his ass, and he made him a prisoner. For 3 years, he held Darth Revan as a prisoner.
And all this is in that book?
Yes, all that's in the book.
Okay.
It's in the comic books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so, not only did he hold him prisoner, but he was literally draining the power off of him. He was using him to gain his own power by draining Revan's power.
Yeah.
And he would also try to connect to Revan's mind so that he could learn more about the Galactic Empire, more about the rebels, and use that against them. So eventually, he was rescued, and he was rescued by a former lieutenant. His name was Metra Shurik.
Yeah.
And a Sith Lord called Scourge. And they ended up freeing him. Now, Revan made another freaking life mission that he was going to kill the Emperor. Now, Vitiate was no longer Darth Lord. He was like the Emperor.
Yeah.
And he vowed that he was going to spend the rest of his life hunting him down and trying to kill him. Revan was, let's see, but in the process, Revan ended up getting killed. But his will was so strong that it split into two. The dark...
That's not confusing.
Well, if you think about it...
I am.
Okay, well, let me explain it to you. Let me explain it to you. So this is why it's not confusing. He always walked on the dark and the light side.
So he didn't become a Force ghost.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
He split into a Force ghost. And the dark side literally was so strong and so determined to find the Emperor that he resurrected his own body.
Yeah.
And the dark side took over that body, and he became Dark Revan.
Instead of Darth Revan.
Instead of Darth Revan.
Yeah.
Now,
And that's still in the same book.
Right. So Dark Revan ended up starting a group called the Revanites. And they were scouring the country, or the galaxy. I keep saying country, but galaxy, looking for the Emperor. And he stayed in hiding for a long time, building up this group, until he come to the point to where he found out that the Emperor had already been killed by another Jedi.
No, that sucks.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like he'd been forwarded his revenge.
Yeah.
So Revan was like, yeah, screw that. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to resurrect the Emperor just so I can kill him again.
Yeah.
I'm going to kill him for good.
Yeah. That's kind of stupid.
Right? Yeah. That's like saying, I'm going to reload this gun.
Yeah. Just so I can kill you again.
Just so I can kill you again.
All right.
So,
And that's still in the same book.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay. All right. I'm with you. All right, I'm following you.
He's only in one other little book, and I don't think it...
He's not in hardly any comics at all.
Yeah.
There's pretty much non-existent.
So anyway, now let's go to the light side. This is what's going on with his dark side.
Okay. His light side's over here.
The light side...
Helping orphans and
little
old ladies across the street.
Okay. So, let's see. I've done started talking past my notes here. So the light side was unable to pass on into joining the Force.
Okay.
Becoming one with the Force.
Yes.
Because of the split.
Okay.
So what he done was he helped consolidate the Sith, the Republic, and the Jedi. It took all of them to bring Darth Revan down, to prevent him from resurrecting the Emperor.
So his good side had to fight against his bad side.
So nobody could take Revan down
except for Revan.
Except for Revan. This is how crazy powerful this guy was.
Yeah.
So once he was weakened enough, and the dark side was weakened enough, he decided to rejoin back to the light. They both matched back up.
And they lived happily ever after.
And that's when they were able to dissipate into the Force, become one with the Force. But his last words, I think if you listen real close in the game, you'll hear him say, let's see, got it wrote, "As darkness takes me, I am nothing, my old friend." So basically, his last words was to his old friend Malik.
Yeah.
So that's what I know.
Yeah.
Now we're talking about, this is the shaved down version.
Yeah, and the thing is that, okay, now you notice this book, it was reprinted by Disney, and it's got a label on there called Legends, because whenever Disney bought Star Wars for $40-some billion from George Lucas, instead of following along with these stories and decades of stories of what Luke did, how Luke married Mara Jade, how Luke had kids, and how one of them struggled with the dark side, instead of following those stories, as soon as Disney bought Star Wars, they were like, meh, we're going to get rid of all that. We're going to come up with our own stuff. And I could understand, since Star Wars had a huge following and a lot of these books were being read by a lot of people like yourself, then that they would want to create movies and TV shows that had something original, something that would surprise you. And yet, having said that, if they had, how popular a Darth Revan movie would be? And the fans have called for it, and for some reason they want Keanu Reeves to play Darth Revan.
Well, because in the video game he's got like a little bit of a beard and everything. He's got a little straighter, long hair, and so I can see that he would do it, but I'm not a Keanu Reeves fan.
Yeah, I know you're not a Keanu Reeves fan, but the thing is that if they had followed the Legends, and they could have still tweaked it a little bit, but still had Luke create the new Jedi Order and show him with Padawans, and Luke and Han and Leia was happy, and even go back to prequels, with stuff like this, the Old Republic. People have been clamoring for an Old Republic movies for years. And the thing is that Disney has kind of screwed the pooch with the sequel trilogy. So they will probably go either way into the future or way into the past, which they tried to do that with Star Wars Acolyte. Nobody liked it. As a matter of fact, they're actually thinking about removing it from Disney Plus and writing it off as a tax write-off. But yeah, if they did something like this...
Oh, no, they're not going to make another season, I guarantee you.
No, they've already decided it's been canceled. It was announced this week. But the thing is, if they made a Darth Revan movie or Darth Revan series and did it right and set it way back in the past, past all the Skywalkers and everything, I think it would be popular.
I think they would too. And I think if they didn't have
and they could follow
Drew
the books
involved in some form or fashion.
Yeah, they could follow the books, and 99.99% of people haven't read that book. And aren't familiar with it. I consider myself a huge Star Wars fan. Look around the room, but I never read that book, and the only thing I knew about Darth Revan was from the video game. So what do you have here?
So this was a GameStop exclusive. I come across.
That's pretty recent, right?
Yeah, about maybe a couple of weeks ago, a month ago.
Yeah.
Now I've repainted this. I know it's crazy to buy something like that, and then as soon as I get it home, I start repainting.
Yeah, because it was a little expensive, wasn't it?
About $80.
$80.
But I didn't like the mask. Everything was too shiny. There wasn't enough detail in, like, if you'll look, I added details in his gauntlets.
I see the sand that you've
I
added.
added the sand. I added more, like, dirt around the bottom of his, I guess you would call skirt or cape.
Did you do repainting on his mask?
I repainted the mask.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't touch is the flames.
Yeah.
Like I even did a wash over the statue, the Mandalorian statue.
Yeah, yeah.
Redone the silver. Yeah, I basically redone everything except for the lightsaber blades and the flames.
Yeah, it looks good. That's nice. But the fact that GameStop had that recently just shows you that Revan is still popular.
And then a couple of months,
in
like
2024.
I said, a few months ago, they had a mask.
Yeah.
Now, this mask here I picked up. I had a friend end up giving me a gift certificate to Amazon.
Yeah.
And it's just like a rubber mask.
Yeah.
Like a Halloween kind of mask.
Yeah.
And I need to shear it up and make it look a little neater. I don't know that I'll repaint it, but
I see a ton of, I'm into cosplay.
Right.
And so it's Teresa, and you like cosplaying. And at the Comic-Cons, there's not a Comic-Con I go to that I don't see a Darth Revan.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, not even one.
I don't think I've ever recorded.
Oh, really?
Ever seen
Seriously?
Darth Revan.
Yeah, I mean, no, I see Darth Revans at every Comic-Con I go to. And a lot of them are young people.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not just old farts like you and me that know Darth Revan.
Right.
Or like you. But anyway.
Anyway, I have this extra book. So if let's see, what do we want to do? Tell them to put, if everybody put in the comment, make Revan canon.
Yeah.
Just write in the comments, make Revan canon. We'll add your name to a list, and on our next episodes of Two Old Geeks Talking, we'll announce who the winner was, and we'll reach out to you, we'll email, and I'll get you this book.
So actually, Dave Filoni wanted, in one of the Clone Wars episodes, he wanted to have Darth Revan. There was an episode where Yoda went back.
They even had some animatics.
Yeah, and you can find them on YouTube.
Right.
And but then Lucas was like, nah, we want it just to be a generic.
George.
We want it to be a generic Sith Lord and not Revan.
Right.
So that was interesting too.
Which makes me wonder why.
He had his reasons. He has reasons.
I'm sure he has his reasons.
I mean, George may not have written that story, but it was during a time where he approved all the stories.
Right.
He said, yes, you can do that, or no, you can't do that.
Right.
So, you done?
That's all I got.
All right. I think we're done.
We're done.
We're done.
We're done.
We're done.
We're done.
So you're gonna spend $160 and get you a real good Darth Revan mask?
No.
You could probably. It don't look real detailed. I think you could make one pretty easy.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think you could.